the first half of for the first 45 minutes, I want us to sort of get to know each other. I want to sort of have you think about what you know about mentoring. And then I'm going to share with you my experience with mentoring. Now, it probably would help a little bit to know why I'm here, like, you know, American girl sitting in Prague. Irina and I like to call myself a girl. I'm 52, so I don't know if I can still call myself a girl, but yes, American woman in Prague. Irina and I met through a network called European Women on Boards. I had been a mentor there for many years because I'm involved in different mentoring programs for women in business in the Czech Republic. And we recently, or I recently, a few years back, started working with European Women on Boards. And our work is really to help women empower them to, I don't like to say get on boards because maybe that's not what you want, but really empower you to be successful in whatever it is you want to do, whatever your goals are. And you know, when the war started, I think everybody felt quite desperate to help somewhere. I mean, to be honest, it made me feel better. I mean, it was one thing to be nice and help out, but it did make me feel better that I could do something. And probably the best thing I have to offer is my network. I have a very strong network of female leaders, not only here in Czech Republic, but in Europe. And so I raised my hand. Irina told me, or somehow we got connected, that she was doing this mentoring. And I said, I'd be happy to take a mentee. And then I suggested that I would be happy to do some training. Now, having said that, yes, it's a workshop today. I'm not a trainer. I'm not a teacher. I'm an executive coach. Mentoring is one of the many workshops that I offer, along with leadership and team building and women and blah, blah, blah. My belief is that I shouldn't really tell you what to do. So let's just call it a sharing conversation today. You're all extremely experienced, and I'm sure I'm going to learn as much from you as you're going to learn from me. So like I said in the beginning, I want us to have more of a dialogue, and then I will share my experience as a mentor. What makes a good mentor, what helps us to do it properly and be successful and not get burned out as well. I'm going to pull up my presentation, which I'm going to be turning on and off probably several times today. Let me just make sure I have it on Mentimeter. So that's not working. Okay. Can you see it now? Can you see it?
Not
Or
yet.
No,
Not yet.
It comes.
one sec. It's okay. It's on. I have it on a third. I have it on something called Mentimeter. So it's like a live. So let me say one more time.
It's okay
oh,
now.
we see it.
Yes, I
Okay,
see
great.
it.
Super. Okay. So I'll just spend a minute about who I am because, you know, I think it's important for you to know who's here to share with you. I'm originally from the US, basically from a suburb of New York City. I studied psychology at university, never expected to go into business. Came to Prague in the early 90s when everything was opening up. Lots of American companies were starting here. And to be honest, I didn't want to work in business. I wanted to work with children. I wanted to work in an orphanage. I couldn't make enough money. So I went to Young and Rubicam Advertising. And after a couple of years, got the opportunity to be the CEO or the general manager to open up the office called Wunderman. It's now called Wunderman Thompson because we keep getting bought out by someone else. But it's a direct marketing agency. Now it's a digital agency. I worked there for 3 years. Then I took a trip around the world and went back to New York City and worked for the global headquarters of EuroRCG. Why am I sharing this? Not important that I worked in marketing, but what's important is I had a leadership role and I was really young and really inexperienced. And I had no mentors and no coaches and no support. And I survived, but it could have been a lot easier. Could have been a lot easier and a lot more fun. And when I actually got to New York City, where I thought I was finally going to have my other female mentors and I was going to have friends and we were going to help each other, the exact opposite happened. Because my years in the 90s, it was me and all men who were 10, 15, 20 years older than I was. And I saw how women didn't support other women. And I said, I'm never going to be like that. So I didn't see any role models. I didn't see a life that I wanted to have. So I moved back to Prague to marry my husband, Ondřej, who's in the picture. And we've been together for 30 years. So he still looks like he's like 20, but okay. So we got married. We had 2 kids. I worked for UNICEF, my dream job, worked for the Forum 2000, another dream job, couldn't really make enough money, knew that it was just temporary while my kids were small, and decided, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to the advertising world, which was not as impressive as I thought it could be, or am I going to do something more meaningful? And that's when I got the idea that I could be a consultant and I could share with people what I learned about leadership and supporting others, specifically women for women. And someone mentioned coaching. This is like 13 years ago. And I took a year-long course to learn about coaching and realized the magic that it can bring. And basically, I do a lot of different programs, but I really believe that the mentoring is the most powerful of all leadership aspects that you can have. So whether you're going to use what we discussed today for your one-on-one mentoring, or you're going to use it in your daily life, professional, personal, I hope it will somehow resonate with you of how to even be a better leader and more inclusive person and care about others. So that's a little bit about where I am. And I really hope that my goal for the session today is really that you leave here very confident about your role as a mentor and having a better understanding about the boundaries, because, everyone right now, especially all of you, are in a quite stressful situation and you have a lot on your plates as well. So you do have to protect yourself a little bit in the role of a mentor and know what is expected and what is not expected of you. So I just want to get a sense, by the way, the other day, I tried to do this individually and have every person speak. And it was such a powerful group of strong women that I couldn't get people to go quick enough. So I've decided to use Mentimeter. Just so you know, if you've never used this, it would be best if you pick up your phone and put in on your browser www.menti.com, and it will bring you to this site, and that will allow all of you to give your feedback on the questions I'm asking. I won't know who said what, so you can be brutally honest. Dasha, did you want to say something?
I just want to say I put this code in our chat so everybody could copy and paste it.
Super, Dasha, thank you. So I just want to get a little bit of feedback from you before I jump into the workshop. And during the second half of the workshop, I'm just going to ask you to unmute and jump in if you want to. But this gives me a sense. So my first question is, how are you feeling today? And I have to give this credit to this question to Irena. Now, it might sound quite silly, but in the past couple of months, weeks since we've known each other, we talked about the question of, how are you? How you doing? How are you? Well, in the situation you're in, which Irena pointed out to me, people aren't generally feeling great. But if we say, how are you feeling today? It allows you to say, like, yeah, I'm still stressed and sad and frustrated about what's going on. But you know what? Right now, I'm feeling okay. So right now we say excited, cool, good, curious, inspired, overwhelmed, relaxed, open, scared, intense, busy, tired but expectant, curious, worried. Thank you for being honest, although I don't know who wrote it. Consistent. There's a lot of different feelings going on here. Proud, worried, tired. And I think this is always maybe the first part where you want to start when you're working with your mentees. How are you feeling today? Get a sense where people are at, so we don't have the expectations that they're going to come in with full energy. Frustrated, open, empowered, blessed. Wow, that's really beautiful that someone you feel blessed. It's really nice to hear you put things in perspective. So I will send these after to Dasha, just so we can get an idea of how you all were feeling today. But you can see we have a lot of different ideas on the spectrum of how you're feeling between good and sad and tired and all of that. So I will try to be very careful not to push any of you if you're feeling worried or something. So as much as you want to share, I will appreciate it, but you're not going to be pushed to share anything else. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So my next question to you, and you can basically just keep the same thing open on your phone, and the next question should come up. Have you ever been an official mentor before? So I'm going to give it a minute so everybody can put their responses in. Okay, so a little more than half of you have already been mentors, which is great. Maybe some of the stuff that I'm saying is going to be repetitive. Hopefully it will just reinforce some things that you already know. But I would also encourage any of you who have been a mentor before and want to share some of your specific experience, feel free to do that. I'm one of many experts. You guys are experts too. So it's not all about me. I'll just be leading it. So we're, yeah, a little bit more than half of you. So good. I'm going to move on to the next question. And that is, what made you want to become a mentor in this program? And if I was working with you, if I was your mentee, that would probably be the first question I would ask you. How are you finding time for me in this very difficult time, even for yourself? So if you guys can think about what motivated you to be a mentor, share and empower. My friend asked me for this favor. Sharing is caring. We say that all the time. It sounds so sappy, but I say it all the time. Desire to be used for someone else. I'm a big supporter of Ukraine. I've gone through pretty intense things myself, so I'm happy. I believe it says happy to share. I should have to move my happy to share. Ukraine's renaissance, be helpful, supporting other, facilitating talent growth. This is genuinely a rewarding experience. Share and support and learn. Lack of a mentor when I needed one way back. That's my reason as well. I have a lot of experience and a lot of good skills. I want to help others. I have a lot to share. I respect to what Irina does. Good job, Irina, as well. I say as well. Yes, you want to be in the program. Ukraine's female power must be heard and felt. I can tell you guys, lady, that I thought that all 50 women on the call the other night were going to jump out of the computer. They were powerful. So yes, it is felt and heard. Desire to help another person curious about the program. The willingness to help. I'm also a conflict mediator and thought it might be useful. Great. I don't know who wrote that, but maybe you can jump in the second half and share some of your experience that could help us. My agenda always includes time to help others. I believe in helping each others. We all need it at a time. I want to create a better world. Oh, I love you, ladies. This is my mission and my purpose: support for women, share experience, support other, adventurism, helping in co-creation, help people have a new experience, be helpful, supporting others. Let me just read. I want everyone's to hear. I'm gone through. Okay, I wrote that already. Wishing to do everything humanly possible to help win the war. Supporting others, we help ourselves. That's a very good point. I believe in Ukrainian women. I was invited and I agree without hesitation to empower someone. Multiplication of opportunities, responsibility, and shared support. I felt deeply about helping, want to give back what I experienced without a mentor. Support, share, and learn. Ukrainian women can do everything and deserve to be supported. Help Ukraine women, support Ukraine women. Okay, now I might cry. No, seriously, really beautiful. Thank you guys for sharing. I think it's important. It's one of the questions, maybe in your first session with your mentee, you should ask each other. You should ask your mentee, why did you decide to join the program? What are you looking to get out of it? And if they don't ask you, I think it would be helpful to tell them why, because it's a two-way street, this program. And if the mentoring works well, you're going to be getting a lot out of it as well. So again, I will share this with Dasha, but I want you to really think about your reason and think about how to share it. Okay. So this is a question that maybe will help me decide what I might need to add if I haven't already put it into the presentation for today. And my question is, if you have any fears or concerns about your role as a mentor, and if yes, what are they? What might you be fearful of? What you might be concerned? Not fears, just curiosity. Great. Okay, it doesn't look like we have a lot of fears. I'm worrying about being unhelpful, that I will not be able to advise. I don't have fears. Simply don't have enough time to dedicate, won't contribute enough. That's my fear. If I'm honest with you, I'm always fearful when I commit to a program that I'm not going to give enough, that I've made a commitment and then I don't do it. Yes, imposter syndrome. I love who wrote that, because I coach people every day and imposter syndrome comes in over and over and over again. I'm going to talk about advising and your role as a mentor. So I'm going to come back to the imposter syndrome. I'm also going to come back to giving to advice. My own feeling of insufficiency, to meet expectations of the mentee, to be helpful. I'm fearful that I can't help. I'm fear of not being helpful. Sometimes I also need a mentor. Now, this is very important. And I want you women to remember this. You are there to help someone else, but I would like to give you an opportunity to also support each other. So in a minute, we're going to get into small groups. You're just going to get to meet each other. Sometimes mentors need support as well, and that's okay. And don't be afraid to ask for it. So I'm worried if I can meet the expectations of my mentee. Fear to be helpless and not as per expectations. Okay, this is great. These are all the things we're going to cover. There might not be chemistry between us, and that makes it less productive. We're going to talk about that as well. Ability to manage and meet expectations, great. It's new to be a mentor of people with trauma. Yes, and that is something we're gonna, I think we should talk openly about as well, because this is a new area for me. And I wanna make sure that we address this if we feel, any of us at any time, are over our heads. No fears, maybe concern about hectic schedules as it is, but this case is worth it. Fear of not being helpful. Ability to manage expectations. Well, we have a lot of the same thing over and over again. Okay, to harm or deliver a mentee to the wrong failed result. I'm going to come back to this. This is one of the things we're going to talk about today. Fear to be helpless and not, okay, I think I'm reading the same things again. Super. Thank you guys for sharing that. I think probably as you're reading these coming through, and like I said, I will share it with you after the session today. You will see you're not alone in your fears and expectations, and that's part of the reason we're on this call today. Okay, I'm going to go to one more. I believe this is the last question. No, two more. What would you like to get out of the session today? So I can just make sure that I've sort of answered your questions. What would you like to leave with? Inspiration. Well, I hope we're going to give it to each other. Confidence. Get insights out of your experience. Encouragement. Best practice sharing. A plan. Great. Clear understanding of expectations we're going to talk about. Feel that I'm not alone and can help others with my true will. I'd like to have a plan. I'd like to boost my energy. I'd like an overview of what to expect. I'd like to witness the mentee's personal growth, a direction on the process and how to organize the conversations. We'll get to that. Okay, practical tips and growth, practical instructions, how to be useful, plan of a session. Great. Okay. Thank you very much. I believe that I will cover everything. At the end of the session, I'll try to leave about 10 minutes open. So if anything has not been discussed or shared, you can ask me. Sometimes, you know, if I run the same workshop many times, I forget if I said it in this session or another session. So just let me know. Growth. Okay. So my last question, which probably many people haven't asked you, but what would you ideally like to get out of this program? You are all volunteering your time. I believe it's 4 hours. Dasha, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 4 sessions at about 1 hour each.
Yeah.
Is that right, Dasha?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's 4 hours for each mentee, but some of my mentors could handle and told us, okay, I could take 2 mentees. So
Right. So
it
some have-
depends on time.
Okay. So I want you to think about what, everyone's time is precious. We never have enough of it. So what would you like to get out of it? New experience and knowledge, hope in a better future, new experience, new networks, some new insights, inspiration, network, experience, successfully help a woman along her path, feeling of the time is well spent and a job well done, personal growth, new experience, new friends, new knowledge, become a better mentor, transformation of a mentee's mindset. Great. I would like to see someone benefit from my exchange with them. I want to see the success of a mentee. I want to better understand and have new connections. I want new experience and personal growth. Good. Those are all very good ideas that you have there. And again, if I was your mentee, I would want to ask you why you joined the program and what do you want to get out of it? Because it's a two-way street here. So if your mentee doesn't ask that, please share it with them. I want to grow in this process with you. I want to learn. I want to have some new insights from you. I can learn from you as well. I want to light up a new star. If you succeed, I will feel that it's a win. Okay. So thank you for sharing that. We are now going to spend 10 minutes. Don't look at what I wrote up here because I wrote it and then I put it into Mentimeter and I didn't know how to go back without losing it. So sorry, it was a technical mistake on my part. I'm changing the question because I wrote the Mentimeter questions after. I just want you to meet. You're going to be in groups of about 5 people for 10 minutes. And just let me make sure we're still not. Yes, we're fine. We're going to come back and then we're going to switch to another call. But what I want you to do is just say your name, the company you work for, what you do. You're not going to decide why you joined the programs because we just said that. I want you to share what you think you have to offer. So, hey, I'm Kristen. I have my own company. I work as an executive coach. And I think I'm really good at building trust between people. I think I really know how to get people to open up. All right. Something that simple. It can't go on for a long time or you will not have enough time for all of you to share. So when you go into the rooms are going to be put together randomly. You're going to have maximum 2 minutes per person. So you're going to have to time yourself so someone doesn't get left out. You are not going to be required to share when you come back. I just want you to get an opportunity to get to know each other and also to understand what superpowers you each have. So if I need help with someone who's analytical or creative, at least I know a few people in the network who are like that. I hope you enjoyed your little breakout rooms. I know it was really short and I'm sorry about that, but maybe some of you can just raise your hand and share with me what you maybe enjoyed about the breakout rooms. Where there's reactions, you can just do like click on it and okay, mine is not working right now, but you can just raise your hand or speak up. Tell me, oh yeah, here we go. So you can just raise your hand like this, and then I'll try to call on you if I can. Akvile, I don't know if that's right, if I'm saying it right. Akvile, yeah, hi.
Hi, so my name is Akvile from Lithuania. And my group was very exciting and very lively. And what was interesting is that even though some of the women were a little bit unsure if they are already mentor kind of material, but they were right away picked up and supported by other participants in the room that they said, you are the mentor. I have seen you live already. You have been my mentor. So what I'm most excited about is this sisterhood and how it was a lift up for each and every participant.
Awesome. Great. This is exactly, we had another call a couple of days ago. We had it last week and I got off that call and I was like, fully energized by the power of all you women. Very strong women, very outspoken, and very willing to share. So I had the same feeling, and it, you know, I don't like to sort of make generalizations about certain nationalities, but yes, you are a nationality of strong women, strong people. So it was really nice for me. So thank you for sharing that, Akvile. Anybody else want to put their hand up and share what the experience was to get to know people in 10 minutes? Olinia? Hi.
I'm happy. Hi, I'm happy to comment for our group. I'd say it's a group of legends, not just people or mentors. And I'm so happy to see a number of women by whom I am excited for a very long time. And it's great to be in this company. And we might have our doubts if we are fit for the task. But if you look at the neighbors, I mean, I can feel already that there will be some lucky ladies who will have this person as a mentor, and that of course will gain bring some positive result. Happy to be here, and thank you, Irina. Job well done.
Great. Thank you for sharing. I'll say thank you again to Irina as well. It is a job well done. Okay. She sometimes even supported her financially, but most important is that she was an example for Natalie all the time. She was a role model. She was able to show her that things could be done. And she really helped to create values for Natalie. I hope I'm saying the name right, because I have different messages, different notes here. But really to think about what's important in life, you know, to think about what was important wasn't necessarily material things, but it was travel, and it was giving back, and it was following your dreams. Then Elena told us about Bob South, who was somebody who was a Toastmaster, who came to build a business, was a leader, but listened. He created a safe environment. He changed her life because he allowed Elena to believe in herself, to have some self-confidence. She felt supported because she was listened to. And he didn't really teach, but he listened and helped her listen to herself. Yulia talked about her mentor helping her believe that she could do all kinds of things. He or she empowered her, gave her exposure, was a champion, but he never took credit for the things that she did and the things he helped her with. He let it be her success. He was very sincere, and at times he was even vulnerable. We are not there as mentors to show that we are perfect. We are there to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. We are there to share our successes and our failures. And he made Yulia believe that she was almost better than she really was. He empowered her, supported her, gave her self-confidence. And we talked to Svetlana, who shared the beautiful story of her grandma. And her grandma, even though she maybe wasn't very educated and didn't have a very easy upbringing, a very easy life, she said, never give up on your dreams, have a dream. As mentors, that is one of a very important thing that we can do with our mentees, is to help them think out of the box, think big, create dreams, and how to make those dreams a reality. One thing that Svetlana was talking about is her grandma was very patient, and she was a very wise woman. All of these things that you have mentioned in your experience with your non-official mentors are what mentoring is all about. And I knew that when you guys shared this, and when you talked to each other and you shared something and you met each other and you thought about, what do I want from this mentoring program? All of these things that we've shared in the last hour are the basis of mentoring. And you created that, not me. You brought that to me. This I wrote while you were talking to me. So what I'm going to share with you now is my experience, just to give you sort of an outline of how it could work. But I want you to not take it so literal for my pages. I want you to take it personal, from what it's meant to you and how you felt when someone mentored you, how you felt when someone shared with you, how you felt when someone encouraged you, because that's more powerful than what I'm going to share. So I'm going to pull up the presentation. I'm going to go through it so we actually get through it. But please, if you want to ask a question, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see your hands being raised when I have presentation up, just unmute and jump in and say, hey, Kristen, I have a question, okay? And then I'll take down the presentation so that I can see everybody. So first of all, thank you for sharing. I know that it's a bit vulnerable for people. And Svetlana, people often cry in my meetings, so don't worry about it. It's very normal. It's actually also very healthy. Okay, so one of the misconceptions about mentoring is that you're either a mentor or mentee. So you're either teaching or learning, and that mentors should solve the problems and the mentors should drive the relationship. This is one thing I'm sure is wrong. When you are in the role of a mentor, you should be learning as well. If you ever have the feeling that your mentees are sucking your energy and you're not learning anything, something's not right in the balance. You're working too hard. You've got to help your mentees work. That's your role. I don't know how many of you might have ever worked with a coach, but this is a question I get a lot of times, so I wanted to share it with you. So I'm an executive coach. It is a specific methodology that you use to help people develop. It's an amazing methodology. It works. I have tested it over and over again, but it's not natural. So if you are not an executive coach, we do not expect you to be an executive coach. But what I want you to know about coaching, which is useful in mentoring as well, is we really encourage a lot of questions. We really encourage to dig into what the mentee is sharing with us. We really encourage them to think more deeply about it. Now, if I was coaching, I would ask the questions and I would stop there. I would ask more questions and more questions. But what's great about mentoring is I sort of use my sense of what's right and not right. If somebody starts crying and they get emotional, I can say, you know, I've been in a similar situation, I understand. Or people talk to me a lot about imposter syndrome. And I say, you know, I just want you to know that every second person that comes into my office is struggling with imposter syndrome. This is very normal, and we're going to work through it. Just to give them a sense of security, give them a sense of like, you're not alone and this is normal. So those are the things that I would never be able to do as a coach. That would go against the coaching rules. And sometimes often when I'm mentoring, it's helpful to share my experience as well, to say, you know, I had a similar experience and this is what happened and this is what I did and this is the outcome and this is what helped me. But there's one thing that a coach and a mentor should never do. Does anybody know what that is?
Tell what to do.
Yes.
Doing something instead of menting.
Sorry, what did you say?
Doing something instead of menting.
Yes. Okay. So basically, we should never be doing the work for the mentee, and we should never be advising. And that's a very tough trap that we get into. And I can tell you, my years ago, when I was running an office and an advertising agency in Prague, I wish I had known this because I was exhausted. I was trying to solve everybody's problems and I was giving everyone advice. And sometimes my advice was bad, but I felt I should answer the question. As mentors, you are not there to advise. You are there to support. You are there to give self-confidence. You are there to help the person find their big dreams, but you are not there to solve their problems. It's extremely important that you remember that for your own well-being as well. Okay. Okay, I said it here. Your role as a mentor is not to solve your mentee's problems. It's to support, guide, help, and empower them. Another thing to remember, your mentee owns the agenda always. Your mentee must be the proactive one in the relationship. And if for some reason you feel that they're sucking your energy, rather than giving you energy, or at least being on the same pace as you, then you need to raise your hand and say, Irena, I'm having some trouble with this. This is really, really difficult for me. And I'm going to give you guys an example. It was actually from a coaching client I had. She works at a big consulting firm. She was coming to me for some leadership coaching. We had very specific topics we were going to talk about. And unfortunately, something changed in her personal life, and she found out that her husband was having an affair and he was going to leave her. And all of a sudden, we got completely derailed from the normal agenda. And our sessions became about how she's going to deal with being a single mom and not having her husband around. And to be honest, I really wish I could have helped her. But the truth is, I wasn't qualified to do it. And I wasn't able to put the barrier there. She's the same age as me. Her husband's the same age as my husband. I know her husband. I know that, like, it just was too close for comfort. And I realized that at the end of our sessions, I felt completely drained. And I also wasn't able to dig in and ask her questions. I automatically went by her side and was with her. That is not a good mentor. And I had to give that client up, and I had to say, I don't think I'm qualified to do this. And I really think that you should see a couples therapist. I think that would be better for you, because I think you need help and I can't give it to you. And that was really hard for me to do, but I had to do it. So I want you to really think about yourselves as well. Okay, so I have what I call 5 golden rules of mentoring. So when you think of the rules, what do you have to do? The first thing you have to do is you have to establish trust. If we don't have trust, it's going to be very hard to share things which are very important and very personal, and sometimes very difficult for us to share. The second thing is you might be mentoring with somebody who is very different than you, a very different type of person, a different type of personality, a different experience. You're going to have to learn to respect their different ways. I'll share some ideas how we can do that. The other thing is I want you to be very authentic. I want you to be open about how you have approached this. You all have come into this for different reasons. You all have different expectations. I want you to share that with your mentee. The other thing is confidentiality. If you break confidentiality, the trust is gone, the program and the relationship will not work. The other thing is commitment. We're all busy. We are all working women. We put this on top of our regular workload. If you don't treat this as a client meeting and you're not committed to it, we are not going to be able to help our mentees. And, it can actually backfire, because if they feel like, oh, great, I finally have someone to help us, and then we let them down. So those are the 5 things we need from you: trust, respect, authenticity, confidentiality, and commitment. Now I'm going to go through each one and share with you how we can do it, but I want to share this one model. I'm not sure if anyone knows this. I work in HR. So this is a really, really good book and a really good concept of how to work together as teams. You can use this in your personal life. You can use it in your professional life. You can use it with friends, with families, with colleagues, and you can use it with your teams. And you can also use it with your mentee. So when we talk about teams that don't function, that don't work together, the major reason starts with the bottom pillar, which is we don't have trust. And if I don't trust you, Natalie, let's say, because I can see Natalie on the screen. If I don't trust Natalie, or if I'm fearful of Natalie, I'm not going to tell her what I really think. Right? And there can be different reasons why we're fearful. Maybe I have such huge respect for her because she's such a successful businesswoman that I don't really want her to see my failures. I want to show her how good I am, which means we never really dig down to the real nitty-gritty of what I need to work on. The other thing is, if you think about this concept in your day-to-day life, like in a business setting, if you go into a meeting and you're talking at a project you're going to work together on, and your boss is telling, saying how it's going to work and it's going to be like this, and you're afraid to speak up to her and say, you know what, I don't really think that's a good idea because this and this could happen, because I'm afraid that it can have bad consequences on the future of my promotion in the future. So what happens is I pretend I'm on board and I do this project with her, but I'm not fully committed because I don't believe in it. And I think from the beginning, there's some big problems with it. So when we start having not really good results, and I'm like, oh, well, Natalie agreed on those rules and she's my boss. So, I'm not really accountable for that. And then 6 months later, the project has been a failure. Now, if I had trust and I knew that Natalie was going to be able to take my feedback and say, Natalie, great idea, but there's a few things that I think aren't going to work. And she says, okay, Kristen, thank you for bringing that up. Let's talk about it, right? Without that, our project will fail. And if you think about who do we trust the most? Who do we have conflicts with? It's with our families, our husbands, our wife, our best friend, our mother, our kids, because we care about them. So if you care about your mentee, you are going to first build that trust so that you can push back on them. If they told you, like, let me come up with an example. They tell you in the first session, look, it's been really difficult. We've had to move to a new country. I have this really difficult job. I work 14 hours a day and I'm worried about my kids because I'm never home. And I think I need to spend more time with my kids because I'm worried about them. And you meet me on the next session and say, okay, Kristen, how did it go since the last session? Oh my God, I'm exhausted. And I'm at networking events 4 times a week. And on the weekends, I'm usually having to write my presentations. And you might say, okay, Kristen, you know what you told me in the first session? You told me that you wanted to spend more time with your kids. It doesn't sound like you're doing that. And that's not a nice thing to hear because it hurts, because I know that I have failed, but you care about me and we have trust. So you're willing to say something which isn't so pleasant. Okay. So please spend the time. I know you only have 4 hours, but us women, we open up with each other pretty easily. Please spend at least the first half an hour just getting to know each other. So there's some feeling of trust and care between you. Okay. When we talk about developing trust, now it's a hard thing because, you don't shake hands and say, okay, I trust you. My suggestion is before you talk about, okay, what are your goals? What do you want to work on? How are we going to measure them? Just tell them something about yourself. Tell them who you are. Tell them about your family, your hobbies, your struggles, your fears. And you can ask them all kinds of sort of out of the box questions. So, what do you do really well? What's your superpower? What are you great at? What do you love about your job right now? And remember, we might be with people who are struggling to find a job. What is your biggest fear right now? What's going well in your life? What's challenging for you right now? What do you wish you could do less of or more of? These very simple questions, which get us thinking out of the box, are the things that allow us to think about dreams. And Svetlana talked about that, that her grandmother always suggesting that she follows her dreams. We can be, the supporters of following dreams. Everybody's life has been, all of your lives have been turned completely upside down. Let them dream a little bit and think about how they can maybe fulfill that. One of the questions that, or maybe I'll give you an example of one of my clients, and I only give the example so that you understand how it works in real life, right? You can Google these questions and find them, but how it works in real life is, I was working with this Czech woman who lives in New York City. She was a privacy lawyer. She worked for a big American company. And she was looking for a coach because she was considering taking a job offer in Dubai and she didn't know if she could take it. So she had a very clear goal. I need a coach to discuss if I should take the job in Dubai or not. So, okay, we talked a little bit about the role in New York, the role in Dubai, what is the compensation? What would it cost to move? Blah, blah, blah. And then after about maybe half an hour, I said, what do you like to do? And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, what do you enjoy to do? What makes you happy? She said, oh, I love to make people laugh. And I said, oh, you're a lawyer. So how do you make people laugh? And she said, oh, on the weekends, on Saturdays, I go for stand-up comedy courses in New York City. And I learn how to write jokes and to be funny. And it really makes me happy when I can make other people laugh. And then she started hysterically laughing and said, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. And I said, okay, so what would you like to be? She said, I want to be a writer and I want to be a comedian. And then she starts laughing again. She goes, that's crazy, right? Now you have to imagine that this nervous laughter that was coming out of her was inside of her for so long. And she was fearful to tell anybody. Because if she told her mother would have said, are you out of your mind? You are a lawyer. You've done law school. She told her boyfriend, he would have been, are you insane? You're paying the bills. You can't quit your job. She told her boss, he would say, no way, we need you here. You can't go anyone. Everyone would have responded with their opinion because it somehow affected them. Even if they loved her and they meant well, they had an agenda. They had an opinion. So sometimes our role as a mentor is really just to listen and say, that doesn't sound crazy. What would it mean to you? How would that make you feel? What would change in your life? Let people dream big, and then help them come back to it. Okay, I don't know, many of you probably know this book as well. It's very old. It's called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, written by a man named Stephen Covey. It's sort of like a very basic book for human communication. And he has a really interesting quote in there, which says, most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. This is human nature. We all do it. You go out to the pub for a beer with me, that's what I'm doing. It's like, a game of ping pong. You say something, I say something, we have a dialogue, it's fun. But when we put ourselves in a mentoring situation, our roles as the mentor is to listen, to understand what they're really saying. They might say something like, no, I'm really happy. I'm really happy right now. Everything's good. I don't know if you can see my face, right? But you're like, okay, you're saying you're happy, but Kristen, you don't look so happy, right? So we really have to look deeper than only the words. We really have to understand what this person is sharing with us. And there's 3 ways that we can listen. And I think there's many more ways than just these 3, but I usually use this in workshops. And think about who you are. We are all naturally someone. Some of us are quite competitive and we always like to win and we like to be smarter or more witty. So you say something and I say something which is more clever or more funny, or maybe I have statistics to prove you wrong. And I'm not being mean. That's just my nature. Yeah. You tell me something, I say, actually, it's not really like that. I just read the new results of the McKinsey report. And actually, this is what the situation is right now. Right. So I listen to say something better, smarter, more intelligent. Then we have people, unfortunately, which is me, who is the fixer. So you start to tell me something, Svetlana explains something to me, and she's telling me, and I'm saying, oh my, okay, I know how to help you. Don't worry, I'm going to connect you with this person, and I can do this, and why don't you let me help you with this? And Svetlana says, okay, Kristen, I didn't really want your help. I just wanted to share it with you. And what happens when we fix things for other people? First of all, we get exhausted. We, us mentors, get exhausted. Us leaders, us managers get exhausted. And this was the huge mistake that I made in the 90s when I didn't know how to properly lead people. Anyone who came in to share, I was the fixer. And what happened was I got burnt out and they didn't grow. So we have got to let our mentees share, not try to fix it, but help them to fix it. So our goal is to listen, to learn. And the best way we can do that is just give a little bit of space. And I sometimes find it uncomfortable. I still have to work on it. But silence is sometimes a good thing. And tears are sometimes a good thing. And when silence happens, because you ask a question and your mentee doesn't know how to respond, let there be silence. Give her the space to think about it. When the tears come, let the tears come. Don't say, don't worry, it's going to be okay. It's really going to be okay, because that's bullshit. We don't know if it's going to be okay. And going through those emotions will help her understand. And sometimes it's say, what were the tears about? I'm just frustrated, or I'm exhausted, or I feel really sad, or I feel betrayed. Try to understand what the tears are coming from. Try to understand the silence. That was a hard question for you, wasn't it? What did you learn about yourself when I asked you that question? What are your thoughts about that question? Okay, so really dig down deeper. That is our job, to get our mentees to think, and we want to learn from them. Okay, some of the ways that you can embrace your listening skills is by demonstrating listening to your body language, nonverbal cues, eye contact. No, I know that 99.9% of your sessions, if not all of them, are going to be online. But believe it or not, when there's just 2 of us on the call and we can see a full screen of someone else's face, we can still learn a lot. We also need to give full attention and focus to the conversation. So if I'm having a mentoring session, I'm not going to be, texting and answering the phone and checking my Facebook. None of that should be anywhere around you. You shouldn't be an area where you're going to be distracted. You shouldn't be in a cafe where a friend walks by, hey, hi, how you doing? We have to give our full attention and focus to the conversation, to the person who is being vulnerable and sharing with us. When someone is speaking, don't interrupt. It's very easy to be like, oh yeah, I know, I get it. I had the same experience. Natalie, I understand. Let them talk. We can't listen and talk at the same time. The only thing I do say about phones, some of you might have emergency situations, someone is sick, you've got kids who have to get home from school. If you need to have your phone there and say, please excuse me that I have my phone, I'm waiting to see if my kids got home from school, please say it out loud, because otherwise when you keep looking at your phone, I think I'm not important for you. And try to evaluate the whole message. It's not only about what I say, but how I say it. And if you're not believing me, and I'm telling you that everything's fine and everything's good, and you just don't feel it, listen to your intuition and ask and say, I'm concerned. You don't sound your normal bubbly self. Is everything okay? Feel free to ask that. They might need somebody to ask them. Okay, when we talk about being authentic, I think it's very important that you clarify the expectations. How are you going to communicate with each other? I'm assuming you guys are going to be on Zoom or Skype, or not Skype, Teams or whatever it is. Talk about what works best for each of you. Talk about maybe some problems you might have with connections. Talk about how often, for how long you want to meet. You have 4 hours, which is the agreed amount of time. You might want to break it up into half-hour sessions. You might want to have 2 2-hour sessions. You might want to have 15-minute calls every couple of days. I don't know. And there's no right or wrong, but ask your mentee what would work best for her. It's also important to let your mentee know if you have some flexibility issues. And the only reason this is important is that when we don't share them, and then for some reason we have stopped communicating, then people get paranoid, like, oh, Elena doesn't want to work with me anymore, or she doesn't have time for me. And it's often not the truth. And sometimes it's hard to share. When I'm having personal issues, I lost a very good friend last week, and I let Irina know and Dasha know, because I wasn't communicating, and I don't normally go silent. And I needed to say, I'm sorry, guys, I had this really bad thing happen, and I just need a few days. And if I don't say it because I don't really want to share it, it's not so pleasant, then they can say, oh yeah, well, Kristen's not really that involved. She shouldn't have time for us. So we need to be open and we need to be authentic. And if you guys are having trouble and you're going through some stress and you're going through some difficult times, it's okay to share it. What is not okay is that the session becomes about you, right? You're not going to come on and say, okay, today I want to talk about me and my friend that I lost. Like, no. The agenda is still with the mentee, but you have every right to share that you're going through something difficult as well. Okay. When we talk about feedback, my experience, now this is, I do most of my work in the Czech Republic. My experience is that people often give feedback when the shit has hit the fan, when something has gone wrong, something has messed up, and we come back and say, oh, this didn't work, and we start giving all this feedback. It's really wonderful when we can have a positive outlook. Someone talked about their mentor being very positive. I think it was Natalie. It's really nice to be around someone who can be positive. Please try to find something positive, something that you can, some feedback you can give to your mentee every time. And one thing that I would recommend, it would be good for you and good for your mentee, is that you spend the last 5 minutes of every session saying, okay, what worked well today? What worked well in our session? Well, it was good because you pushed back on me. What didn't work so well? Well, you know what? We only chose a half an hour today, and I actually think we need to have at least 45 minutes, right? So you're getting the immediate feedback. Getting the feedback after the 4 hours of your work together is not helpful because the work is done. So get used to, maybe share with your mentee during the first session that you'd like to take the 5 minutes of every session for quick feedback. You to your mentee and mentee to you. What did I do well today? What could I have done better? And that way we're continually growing, both of us. Okay. Confidentiality. We all work with this in some form and some way in our businesses. Unfortunately, sometimes people break confidentiality and they don't realize it. So an example could be that I have a conversation with Evelyn, and she shares with me something very personal, and it really touches me. And I'm like, wow. And then I have a conversation with Ghana, and she shares something very similar. And I'm like, wow, my God, Evelyn and Ghana are dealing with the same thing. I think I should connect them. They would probably love to talk to each other. Right? I'm making an assumption. You probably should. So I get on an email or a WhatsApp and I connect you guys. And I said, you're both dealing with the same problem of X, Y, and Z. Please connect, ladies. And Evelyn says, like, Kristen, I shared that with you during our mentoring session. Like, that's really personal. I didn't want to share that with anyone else. And I feel embarrassed and I feel betrayed that you've shared that. And I meant it really well, but I made a big mistake. So if I would like to share something that comes out of our sessions, I need to get permission. Evelyn, I know somebody else in the program who's dealing with something similar. Would it be okay if I connect you? Evelyn said yes. And then I need to go to Ghana and say, Ghana, would you like to be connected with this person? I need to get permission. And I absolutely think it's great to share our networks, but please make sure you don't give away something which has been shared in confidence. I think it's also important to think about where you're having your mentoring sessions. Now, again, I think most of you are going to be online, but if your mentees are sharing something very personal with you, you don't want to be in the middle of an office space. You don't want to be in the middle of a cafe where people can hear you. I think it's unlikely that the person sitting next to you is going to know the person on the screen, but you know what? It's a small world and it's possible. So if you're discussing things which are personal, emotional, confidential, you really need to be behind some closed doors. Okay, showing commitment. I think it's very important that you set your ideas of how you're going to meet in advance. Ask your mentee, how would you like to use these 4 hours? What would be best for you? What timing of the day? We're on different, I don't know, continents. How are we going to do this? Talk about it. So there's real clear expectations in the beginning and make it a priority. I think I already said that. But if you don't show up and you keep canceling, I'm going to feel pretty frustrated by the program. I'm going to feel like maybe I'm not that good. Maybe Irina doesn't want to give me her time because I'm not that good. I'm not worth her time. And it can really have a negative effect. So make sure you discuss this and be brutally honest about what can work and what can't work. I also tend to share a lot of information, materials, contacts, network. I happen to share a lot when I understand what the person might need or want. That is completely up to you. I know when I first met Irina, there was a really interesting conference going on in Prague. And I said, really, would you like to go? Let me get you an invitation. In the end, she wasn't able to come, but that's something that she would never know about. And it could be helpful to her. So reach out, offer that help if you have it. Okay. When you want to talk about showing how you're committed, I think it's important to have the conversation that we started today, which is, why did you join the program? What are your expectations or hope for our work together? Is there something very specific you're looking for? And how will you know? How will you measure your progress? And to be honest, I want you to ask these same questions to yourself. But sometimes people come into these programs because they just don't feel good. They just want some support, but they don't have an actual goal. Or you know what? Maybe people can't even make goals right now because their situation is so insecure that they're not talking about a specific job they want to get or a specific promotion. They're talking about basic survival. So they might not be able to measure it with something very specific. So ask them, how will you know if this is useful? And they'll just say, I feel like someone cares about me. I feel like someone understands me. Okay, what can I do to help you feel that way? You can just share with me your experience. So let them decide how they're going to measure it. I worked with a woman many years ago who was dealing with like real self-confident issues. She was head of legal for a big international company. And she just was like a different personality type than the men on the leadership team. And she really needed to work on her self-confidence. And you know, the problem is self-confidence we can't measure, right? We can't measure it in numbers. We can't measure it on a piece of paper. So I asked her, like, how are you going to know if you feel more self-confident from our work? And she said, you know, like on Sunday nights, the night before a management meeting, my stomach won't hurt. And well, if I'm feeling more self-confident, I'll be able to actually speak up at the session, at the meetings, and I'll actually be able to ask questions, and eventually I'll be able to present something. So in that one conversation, she was able to give me 4 things that she was able to do to measure, and we just took them one at a time. What do you need to do to calm yourself on a Sunday night? What would help you? Maybe I could prepare for the meeting. Maybe I could take a bath. Maybe I could go for a walk. I don't remember what she said. And then, you know, the next one is, okay, what could you do to have your voice heard? I could come prepared with one question for the meeting, right? So ask your mentee, let them decide. And if they don't have big goals and big dreams right now, when everyone is feeling so insecure, that's absolutely okay. If they just say, I just want someone to talk to. That's it. I just want to make a new friend. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. SMART goals. I think I'll send this to you guys. I don't know. You're only going to have 4 sessions. You're not going to be digging into very deep goals, but just make sure that they let you know how they're going to measure the success of your work together. Your role as a mentor is to guide and empower your mentee to reach their potential. And their potential might simply be to be comfortable in the new place that they're living right now. It might not be bigger than that. You have to set the tone for the trust and the openness. Please be willing to share your fears, your mess ups, the things you've done well and the things you've done bad. Help them identify your talents. That's one of my favorite things I get to do when I work with mentees. You know, when you get to know them a little bit better, and then you say, you know, you're really creative, or you're really witty, or you're really analytical. Did everyone ever, oh no, I don't do that at work. Okay, do you ever get to do that? Really identify those talents that you see and help them and encourage them to have a meaningful goal. And if their goal is to feel, I was working with actually a lawyer here who worked for a law firm in Kiev, and she was put into a law firm here in the Czech Republic, but she can't really practice law because she's not certified to practice law here. So she's doing some other work, and her issue wasn't really about work. Her issue was, you know, I don't have a home anymore. And that's really what's making me feel bad. And so, okay, what could help you to feel that Prague or Czech Republic is your home, at least temporarily? So that's what we talked about. We didn't talk about her law degree. She knew that we weren't going to be able to fix that. She wanted to feel at home. What do you need to feel at home? I have to have some friends. I have to know some people. I have to have a network. You know, it was simple, but it was the most important thing for her. And please be as enthusiastic for your work together as you can be, and support self-confidence with ongoing feedback. That is really the gift that you can give them. And the feedback can just be enough, like, hey, Tatiana, thanks for being here today. I know it was difficult for you, and I know you're going through a hard time, and I give you a lot of credit for showing up and giving your time to support another woman. That's it. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. Okay, what I'd like to do now, and I have 15 minutes, so great, I manage it time-wise, which I often don't do. I want to leave you sometimes for asking me questions. And there's one question that has come up. I think it came up in our last session, like, what if you feel you are over your head with the topics that your mentee brings to the table? What if your mentee is really traumatized and you feel like, oh my God, I don't know how to deal with this? You need to get on the phone or send a message to Irena and to Dasha, and we can deal with it together. We do have contacts for therapists, psychologists. Like, you are not therapists, and we do not expect you to do it, and do not take that burden on. We are here as a network to support one another, and we will help you if you don't feel equipped to do it. Please don't be afraid to speak up. It's not a weakness. It's the reality of the situation that you're all in right now. I'm going to now open the floor to all of you guys to ask any questions you might have. Anything. You can just raise your hand. or you can just unmute yourself. Okay, Bojana, hi.
Yeah, hi. Thanks a lot for this advices and your, experience on that. I have a question related to the expectations that mentor is someone who is kind of still advising. At least in Lithuania, it is very, very common that even if you are saying that you are a coach, for example, this expectation is that, okay, it was good, but still you know have already this experience. Can't you just say how should I do or how you did that? So there is still this expectation. How would you advise to respond to that?
Great question. So someone might say, oh, come on, Kristen, just tell me what you think. Okay, fine. So you know what, Bojana, I'm going to share with you how I handled that. So when I was in that situation, this is what I did. And this is what worked well, and this is what didn't work well. But I want you to remember, Bojana, that when I was in that situation, it was 1999, 20 years ago. It's a different situation now. I was dealing with a boss who was twice my age and male. You're dealing, so I would put things in perspective. And I definitely, when I mentor people, I share, I say, you know what? If you don't speak up, you're not going to receive. Let me give you an example of that. Yeah, this is when I was asking for pay raises, for example, right? I share it. I don't ever tell them they should do it. I share it and say, what do you think about that? Yeah, and they say, I think you're crazy, right? So there's a very fine line. And I think you're right. Like sometimes they just want your opinion. Kristen, what's your opinion? Okay, I'm going to give you my opinion, but you're going to have to decide what to do with that. I'm not telling you to do this. I'm telling you what I feel and what I hear from you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very fine line. And the only time you should advise is if you feel someone is in danger. I told you the one time I needed to let one client go because I really was getting too pulled into it myself. I wasn't able to help her. And it wasn't healthy for her. It wasn't healthy for me. But I had one other situation where I knew that the woman who was sitting in my office was about to go to the hospital for burnout. And I said to her, you need to go to your boss tomorrow and you need to tell them you take time off, because if you don't, we're not going to have a next session because you are going to be in the hospital. So in a situation where you feel fearful for this person, you can put your hand up and say, I am worried about you. This concerns me. I think you need time off. Yeah, I think you need a break. I think you need to see a therapist. I don't know, whatever it might be. If you feel they are in danger, then you can speak up and you can reach out to us as well and we'll help you. But you can't be left with that burden. Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay. So, do you feel ready for the mentoring journey? Feel confident? It's really great what you're all doing, supporting each other. And, my experience with mentoring is you're going to get as much from it as you give. I many times get more. It helps me put things in perspective. It helps me see another point of view. It humbles me. So I wish you a wonderful journey. And maybe I would just ask if anybody wants to share maybe one or two like key takeaways, something that maybe you didn't think about before.
I can see a hand. Olga, raise a hand.
Olga?
Hi.
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's me.
Okay. Hey.
Kristen, thank you very much for today's training. It was very valuable and really insightful. Thanks, everyone. It's a big honor to be among you and to feel that joint power. I would like to share maybe my own concerns, but maybe it will be relevant for others because I heard that many of us are not pretty sure if we have enough time, we have enough resources, knowledge, whatever, to share. And I would like to say that you can borrow resources, knowledge, expertise. This is my takeaway from Kristen talk, one of the key. If you don't feel you have it, it doesn't mean you are alone and you have nowhere to have it. So you still have ways how to make mission complete. And sometimes we are afraid to share because we don't think we have enough, or because we think that someone will take it differently, our being kind for our being foolish. And this is the same thing. You have to protect yourself. And when you feel uncomfortable, this is the relationships you can stop. So it's something, it should not be a burden, but it should be an insightful and inspiring journey for two of us, for two of you, for us. And this is my second takeaway from Christine's today talk. Thank you.
Olga, thank you. It's a very good point, and I'll maybe make some of you guys laugh now, but you know, I coach CEOs, IT experts, lawyers, CFOs, people in the airline industry, engineers. I mean, I coach people that I know nothing about their business. Most people are not coming to a mentor to learn a technical skill. They are learning, they're coming to get support of how to handle certain situations, how to feel better, how to feel more confident, how to be a better leader, how to be a nicer person. And so they're touching into our human aspects of it. And it's okay if somebody asks me and I say, you know, to be honest, I don't know. But let's talk about it. What is the help you think you need? Well, I need somebody to look at my marketing plan. And I said, I haven't been in marketing for 20 years. Let me see if I can find someone who'd be willing to look at that for you, and I'll come back to you, right? But I can tell you from my experience of 13 years of doing this every single day, rarely does somebody come with asking for technical support, because they usually know that. They go to a training for that. They go to a skills training for that. They don't go to a mentor or a coach. So, Olga, thanks for that. Okay, Daria, I'm going to hand it over to you. Oh, no, Gabby or Yulia. Sorry, Yulia.
Thank you. I thank you for those comments, Olga and everyone. And it just came to my mind a second ago. You know, the overall business environment, public speaking environment, sometimes is overwhelmed with those stories of successful success. And if you want one, you actually can get plenty. And probably one of the things to help us get rid of this imposter syndrome is understanding that neither we're in this for it, nor the mentees are. And they're not looking, hopefully, for the quick fixes. They're looking for more insightful things, which, with a degree of sincerity and our experience, we certainly can give.
Very, very good example. Thank you so much, Yulia, for sharing that. You know, I do a lot of different women's programs, and there's no worse speaker than some woman who comes on and says, hi, you know, I'm Kristen and I'm the CEO of the company and I have 5 kids and my husband is beautiful. I mean, my husband is great and I go to the gym every day. And that's not reality. And nobody wants that. We want to feel we can connect. And what I love is when a woman gets up and says, yes, I'm the CEO of a company and it's hard and it's challenging with my kids and it's challenging with my husband. And you know what? This is what I do. And this is what helps me. That's someone I can believe. And that's someone I can be inspired by. So you don't have to have all the answers. You need to be there. Remember, we talked about the real essence of a mentor. You care for the other person. You empower them. You support them. You're not their trainer. They can go get skills training someplace else. Okay. So thank you, Daria. I'm going to hand it over to you because I know you want, yeah, I do. Oh, there you are. Yeah, hi.
Yeah, I'm here. I wanted to share quickly my mentee experience actually and ask in the same time, because when I have before my first session with my mentor, she sent to me application form, I can say that. I don't know if it's rule for mentorship in general or it was her rule, but she asked me to think. She told me like, you're not necessary to write me or write everywhere, but please, before we start, think about these questions. And it was like a question about my main challenge, of course. And it was like, what do you think? What is your what is your strengths? What is your weaknesses? What do you love the most in your work or in your life? And it was like few questions. I don't know if it's rule or can you recommend it to our mentors? Maybe you have some application or how it works. I don't know.
Yes, so it's actually in the presentation. I probably went through it quite quickly, but I'm happy to share it with you, Dasha, and you can share it with everybody. And it was in how you get to know the person in the first session, and all of those questions were there. What do you do really well? What are your superpowers? What do you love to do? You know, what gives you strength? What are you fearful of? You know, what are, I don't know, what's on your laundry list? I mean, not laundry list, bucket list. So I can send you those questions, but it doesn't really matter what the specific question is. What our goal is to get them to open up before we narrow them down, right? Because then we narrow down and say, okay, this is what we're going to work on. We want to get them to open up first, touch into all different aspects of their life. What makes you happy? What brings you joy? What gives you strength? So I can send it to you, Dasha, and you can share it. Yeah. Elena.
Kristen, thank you very much for a very powerful presentation. We learned our life. I learned a lot today. And I wanted to ask you, when I was a corporate mentor with Accor Hotels, we started leadership program for women. And we had not an agreement, but a document that we were sending to mentors and mentees, like explaining what mentorship is, what are the roles of mentee and mentor. Are we going to send it to participants?
I don't know. I think we have one. Dasha, do we have one?
We have mentors guide and we sent to everybody this guide. But I'm not sure it's the same which Elena talking about.
I'm just asking how it works in this program.
Elena, the program is also very new. It was quite sort of like ad hoc, like, okay, the war started, and Irina really ran this initiative and I just raised my hand and said, hey, I could help with this. But I don't think this program is ending anytime soon. I think it's going to continue. So any ideas, I would really, ideas, thoughts, feedback, whatever it is, let us know. And if we don't have it, we will get it. Or if you think you can help us with something, let us know. I mean, it's team effort here. You know, Irina didn't come to me and say, do you want to run a training program? I said, I can do it if it would be helpful. Sure. Because I do it, right?
And we can do it during the meeting. So you're talking about expectations and like onboarding. Yeah.
Sure. But I mean, there's, you know, like I said, it was sort of like, okay, this is a situation. Let's try to help women who are displaced right now. And let's see how we can best support them. And, you know, when I really think about my own, I mean, okay, I make okay money, but I'm not like a millionaire that I could financially, I don't have that, but I do have a network and I do have some experience. So I can give that. And so everyone can give what they have. So if you, even Elena, if you have something, if you want to share it with Irina, look at it. So, you know, it's a team effort here. And so if you feel you
I will share with Daria, she's a boss. So to share with everyone.
It would be really helpful, Elena. Thank you if you can share it. So.
Because from my experience, we need to prepare clients what will be, so they read something, because they come and say, okay, tell me about you or something. So I can send them in advance And when I send them onboarding document, like how it looks, so they can read, come prepared with a question, and we can work about them. Okay, I will be in touch with Daria.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
Elena, we can also work a little bit on this together. I have a lot of documents, but we've gone in, we've sort of just like dove in head first, so we can put something together as well. I'm happy. I have lots of
Sure.
stuff, lots of materials.
Okay,
So
sure.
let's make it, right? Let's make it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you as well, Elena. So I can see people are jumping off. I know it's quite late and quite early for some of you. So I wish you a wonderful journey. I will stay on the call if anybody would like to ask anything else, but I just want to let you all go and get on with your lives. And I'm thinking of you and your country and your families, and I'm with you in heart and spirit and soul. I don't know what else to say. Let's hope this is over soon.